This is CNN Breaking News.
Hello and welcome to our viewers joining us here in the United States and all around the world. I'm Lynda Kinkade. We're following breaking news on two major stories this hour. Another mass shooting in the United States. At least 22 people reported killed in Maine. And the suspected gunman is still at large. We're also following developments out of the Middle East. Israel gearing up for ground operations in Gaza, even as the territory's deepening humanitarian crisis spirals out of control. I want to begin in Maine, where the manhunt is underway after a massacre in two locations in the city of Lewiston. At this stage, 22 people are dead, up to 60 others wounded. The shootings took place Wednesday evening at a bowling alley and a restaurant. Officials in Lewiston and the neighboring city of Albany are telling residents to stay inside and lock their doors. Hundreds of officers are looking for this man, 40-year-old Robert Card. Police describe him as a person of interest and say he is considered armed and dangerous. The local sheriff's office released this image of the gunman holding a high-powered assault-style rifle just inside the entrance to the bowling alley. U.S. President Joe Biden has been briefed on the shooting and spoke with Maine's governor and lawmakers. I want to bring in James Corrigan, a reporter with WMTW, who is in Lewiston right now. We appreciate you being with us, James. We spoke with a local official earlier who told us that 22 people had been killed, dozens injured. I understand you're outside the Maine Medical Center in Lewiston. Just talk to us about the medical response. What more are you hearing about those treating the survivors?
Well, we actually just spoke a few minutes ago to one of the trauma surgeons here at Central Maine Medical Center in Lewiston, just giving us an insight of what that staff, what that team of surgeons have been going throughout this evening and into the early morning hours. He said that this is not something that he has seen before, just a high-velocity AR bullet ripping through a human body. That's just something he says you only see in pictures, but he had nothing but praise for his staff here at CMCC. He says that they were prepared. He says that they were staffed. He says that they didn't flinch when dozens and dozens of injured came in through these doors with gunshot wounds, again, the likes of which they haven't seen. At least 20 dead, dozens injured. We do not have that exact number. That exact number has not been confirmed. Of course, the number of dead could very well rise as the day progresses. We've also spoken to some of the nurses here at CMC, and the looks on their faces, on some of their faces, really just told the entirety of the story. This is a community that just doesn't see incidents like this happen. Maine is last in the United States among the states in terms of violent crime. The state itself has averaged about 22 homicides per year for the last decade, and that, of course, has been matched in just one night and really in just the course of 10 minutes when Robert Card has allegedly took his AR rifle into the bowling alley and into the bar here in the city of Lewiston. You did mention that we are under a shelter in place. That is the entire county here. Androscoggin County is under a shelter-in-place order as we speak. No businesses will be able to open. People that were in businesses are still in businesses. They have not been able to leave. Schools, places like schools had to be evacuated. This is not something that we have ever seen here in the state of Maine. It's never something that we have wished to see or we ever want to see again, but it certainly has happened here in a place that, frankly, is one of the places you would least expect to see it happen.
And James, we just noticed the security outside the hospital there. We know that state and local and federal law officers are looking for the suspected gunman 8 hours after the massacre. What's the latest on the manhunt?
Well, his car has been found in the town of Lisbon. That's not too far away from here. A white Subaru was found earlier this morning, and that is a manhunt that is still underway. It's been quite a long time, but law enforcement officers are patrolling that area in Lisbon. We've seen helicopters circle that area, do laps around, and But at this moment, the suspect, the person of interest rather, Robert Card, is still at large, and as such, that shelter-in-place order remains intact.
James Corrigan, outside the Maine Medical Center in Lewiston, Maine. We appreciate your time tonight. Our thoughts are with your community. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, I want to bring in Steve Moore, a CNN law enforcement contributor, a retired supervisory special agent for the FBI. Good to have you with us, Steve.
Thanks.
So as we were just discussing, this manhunt is still underway. It's now 8 hours since the first shots were reportedly fired. What does that mean, that time frame for law enforcement as these hours tick on?
The problem with the passage of time is that that's also an expansion of the search area, because the person, the shooter can, if they have a vehicle, it's wildly expanding. If they're on foot, it's still expanding. So it puts a larger burden on them. And so right now they're probably bringing in resources as we speak, say from the FBI. The FBI have aircraft that can look for even the smallest body heat on the ground. They can search for that. I've been in those planes when we've been looking for people in areas like this. That's what we're going to see, a more technical search. And see, the problem is it is very dangerous to send law enforcement officers into these woods to search for a man who could set up booby traps or set up an ambush. But at the same time, if you don't find him, he could also attack a civilian target.
And we're just looking at pictures, Steve, of the suspect. What do those photos tell you? What do you take away from those images?
Are these images of the shooter himself?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. That's kind of scary, because what you're seeing there is I have a tactical background, and you start to be able to recognize somebody with expertise. He's showing several behaviors there that indicate a high level of training. He's moving forward, yet looking to the side, covering targets or searching for the targets on his left in one of the photos. You see him holding the front of the rifle down. It's not just gently cradled. He's actually holding it down, which usually means that he's expecting to fire rapidly. The gun barrel tends to rise when this happens. So holding it down is a sign of somebody who is tactically trained. Even the way he's walking, you see his feet his legs are moving mainly below the knees. That allows you to walk without the rifle barrel bouncing. All of these things indicate that he is an extremely competent tactical shooter, and that complicates things more than I could even imagine for the law enforcement.
Yeah. And we've since heard from law enforcement officials saying that the person of interest, Robert Card, was a certified firearms and tactics instructor with military experience. And we've also learned that he was committed to a mental health facility over the summer for a couple of weeks after reportedly hearing voices and making threats to shoot up a National Guard base in Maine. It's unclear at this point if indeed this is the person, the gunman, and it's unclear at this point, if so, how he was able to get that rifle. In terms of the gun laws in Maine, what do you know about them, and what should people in those areas do right now?
Well, what the people should do in those areas is hunker down. Don't answer your door unless you can verify that it's police. Don't let anyone come into the house and report any strange movements outside or report any noises you hear. That's the number one thing. As far as the gun laws, I mean, think of it this way. This person has been in the military likely for years, and as a firearms instructor, has had access to AR-15s. I was a firearms instructor. I had access to AR-15s. He probably had this weapon legally long before he started to experience any mental issues. So again, we're going back to that whole thing. How serious are we about retrieving weapons from people who have access to them and are mentally incompetent to keep their possession of the rifles?
And just finally, on those images, we saw the suspect walking through in the bowling alley, in the restaurant, at dinner time with this assault-style weapon. He didn't seem to have a flak jacket on. He didn't seem to have any other protection. What's your reading into that, and in terms of his mindset going forward, how this could play out?
Well, if he, I mean, he could have had some type of flak jacket under that bulky top that he was wearing, but I'm not sure he did. I think what it says is, you can't get me, and even if you do, he probably really doesn't care. I don't think he sees an end to this that with him in prison. I think he sees the end of this as being the end of the voices in his head, the end of his mental anguish, the end of his life. And so I believe that he was carrying all sorts of extra ammo in his cargo pants pockets. I think the reason he didn't wear a flak vest or some kind of protective gear is twofold. As I said, you can't get me, and if you do, that's what I want anyway.
Steve Moore, good to have you on the program just to get that perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you.